All right, today we are going to go over rebranding visuals to our very own branding. And we're doing that because our client has a partnership with a distributor of plastic cases, Nanook. And what we want to do is we want to bring these into our site and then style them to have our own branding. The other thing we're going to show is how we're going to have an entire catalog on one page where a visitor can click around and check categories and browse the entire catalog without reloading the page and going elsewhere. So this is the site we're working on, and it's called Custom Pro Cases. And this is the new case line that we want to install. And so a lot of people will buy cases from a distributor like this, and then they'll copy these images down and install it on their site. And we want to do it a little bit differently. We've already started this process with a different line called Pelican. And here are all the different cases that Pelican makes, and we've already gone through that process of just cutting them out, and then we put this little yellow background to kind of go with our colors. And we're going to do the same here with these Nanook cases. And so here's some samples of some of these already done. What I'm showing you here, we're kind of doing the exact same thing. As you can see, when somebody clicks on these, they're kind of quickly surfing through the different categories. And what's different with this than the other samples I showed you is we have these little shadows underneath the cases. And the reason why that I've added that to this go around is because adding a little bit of a drop shadow to these will make the images feel more closer to our brand, as if we photographed these in our own studio. Now, even though they're circles and they're not perfect shadows, I think the overall effect is stronger to have those in there. And so I'm going to show you really quick how I did that. So when you right click on anything within Chrome, you'll get this little developer tool, and then you can highlight different things and see what's going on. And so the other thing I'm going to do is I just want to show you the difference with the shadows. So what I've done is I've added a little style here where I just turned off the shadows so you can see the difference. So there the images are without the shadows, and I'm going to turn that back on. There they are, so you can see kind of the difference that they make. What the client does is customizes these cases, and so we want this to feel a bit custom. That's why we're trying to make the brand our own. And so that's why I put those shadows in, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like, just the shadows alone. So what I'm showing you here is how the background yellow and then the little shadows for the products are being added programmatically. And the reason why we're doing them programmatically is because a gradient like this and these little soft shadows are something that's going to be done with math or CSS programmatically. That's going to render really beautifully, where if we had to put all of this into the images, it would be a lot of extra work. And it would make the images larger to try and render all this. So that's why we're rendering it with code and CSS. And I want to show you how we're doing that. We're using just a little bit of custom coding to get this to work. And so let me show you how that works. So Squarespace allows us to add JavaScript to a page or to an entire site. And I've wrote this little function called Nanook Shadows. And the way it works is it loops through any summary block items, and then it looks at the class. So all you got to do is tag it R1, R2, R3, and you'll get whatever shadow we need. And so what this is doing is it's looking for that tag, and if it has it, what it's doing is it's adding these little div classes. So these are little empty div classes called R1 and R2. And once those are added to the code, it'll find that and say, oh, we want a shadow here. So I'll add these little classes, and then over in the CSS, so if somebody tags something with underscore R1, what it's going to do is it's going to create this little background gradient. So it's creating these little gradients. This one is R1. It's only using one of the shadows. If something's tagged R2, it'll use two different shadows. And the other reason why I'm doing this is if you look at all the different orientations of the cases that were taken, they're all basically the same way. So we can use one of 3 or 4 or even 5 shadows to cover pretty much every single product. So if you see they're all laying like this, you're going to go with R1. This one's going to be R3. Where there are 2 cases like this will be an R2. So that's the process. With those customizations, we are getting, and I'll reload this, we are getting just a little bit of depth and 3-dimension look into these images that we're rebranding. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to download the images, we're going to move the background, we're going to optimize, we're going to install the site, and we're going to categorize and shadow. So I did a couple of these, but what you want to do is we want to get every one of these cases up into the site. So what you're going to do We're going to click on a case, let's say here. And what we're going to look for is this one has two different visual options here. I chose the first one because this one you couldn't see much of the case. Even though the general rule of thumb is it's nice to see some of the objects this will hold so we get an idea of the size of the case. This case was really super hard to see, so I chose this image. Anybody who's surfing this site and picking cases is going to need some help choosing the right case, so we're just giving them a kind of an overview. And so you're going to have to make an executive decision, which one is going to be best. So I chose this one. In this case, I might choose that one. That one's not a bad one. My preference is as an angle, I think, with this open and something inside of it. But you're going to make a best choice of whichever you think is the best one and then cut those out. Going back over here, here's some of the ones I cut out. So there's one of them. There's another one. And then here's another one. And so then having downloaded these, the other thing you're going to notice, which is really nice, is that all of the images are 15 by 15. So that's been a standard that Nanook has put in place. That's going to be to our benefit. And then we're going to go to this program called remove.background. So the way this works is that you're going to upload any image and it's going to cut out the background. So you can use the website. It costs $1 per removal, but it's super fast. And you can see from this example here how well it works. It really does work that well. You just upload it and then you download it with everything cut out. Now I remove the backgrounds at 1500 by 1500 because I want them to be as sharp as possible. And then what I've done is I've resized those down to 750, so half of 1500. So these images, after they've been cut out over here, then I resized them down to 750. So this one at 1500 is 1.1 megabytes. That's way too big, right? We want to get that down. So that's one of the reasons why I'm sizing those down. And then once those are sized down, they're probably a couple 100K, but then I optimize them down to around 73K. So that one's 73K, that one's 59K. That one's 77. That's all really great sizes under 100K, and that's really super important. Now, once you got those, you've got these 750 by 750 images, the background's cut out, and then the next thing you want to do is you want to install those into the site. So over on the site, we have an index page with a hero. That's this hero here. And then we have a summary, which is the cases right here. And that summary is pulling all the short descriptions and the images from a product page called Nanook Cases. So this is where you're going to install all these images. So I've got these products I've already installed. So if I double click one of these, basically what I've done, I've uploaded the 750 by 7 image here. I put the name of the case, and I want this to be sentence case. So like if you're pulling it from Nanook, actually I take that back. I want the word Nanook to be all uppercase for consistency. And then the other thing we're doing is we're going to put in from the Nanook website, we're just going to copy this information right here, copy that, and then we'll paste that in here. And then once we've done that, the things we want to do is we want to bold the dimensions, because that's really super important, is that's the first thing that people want to scan. And so I'm going to do those dimensions. And so we want to do those, and you can see the ones that have already been installed. And then we'll save that. And that's all there's to it. If you take a look at any of these, double click on it, you'll see they're all basically the same. Interior, exterior, bolding that, those kinds of there, our name. Oops, gotta make those all uppercase. That was my fault. And so you're going to want to install each one of those cases. And then the other thing you're going to want to do is you're going to see which shadow works, right? R1 is designed for any that are at an angle. R2 is designed where there's two next to each other. So one shadow here, one there. R1 was used for this, and R3 is from a top down where it's just going to put just a little bit of shadow under here. And so the way that you do that, after you've added the image and the text, you're going to add some tags, or actually one tag. So the tag is going to be, if I look at this, it says R_R1. If I wanted it to be R2, all I'd have to do is, and when I put an underscore, you'll see all the different versions, R1, R2, R3, and you'll just pick whichever one you want. If you don't want one, you can just hit the X, but this one is an R1. And if by chance you come up with some kind of shadow that the other three don't work, create a fourth one or a fifth one or whatever, and then let me know and I'll create a new shadow design for one that we need if we need something that I haven't set up for. So those are the tags. Now the category is that what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find out when you're looking at what categories there are. So we went to this ammo case here, and these are in, if you go to all the cases, these are all of them. And then what you're going to want to do, you're going to want to go into cases, collections, and find the same case in one of these categories, either gun, camera, drone, stabilizer, outdoor, or new products. Preferably it's going to be in one of these, is where they're fitting in here, and then you'll categorize them. So in this case, I wanted to put the first ones that are loaded until somebody clicks on features. So the first 3 have featured, but basically this has an outdoor case. This one has a guns category and R3, as you can see. So that's the other part, is you're going to want to pick a category for that, and then you're going to pick a shadow. And once you've installed those, and you go back to the Nanook page itself where it's pulling all this data, you can hold Shift down and hit Reload in Chrome, and any new cases that you've added should show up. The other thing I'll show you is that if you create a new category, it'll automatically show up when you do this process. After you've added that, if you've added a new category, it'll show up. You can always hit All to check all of them. And the other thing I'm going to note too is that what we're also doing is we're showing the first 2 bullets, and we're hiding anything after that. So that just gives it a little easier scannability. But that's it. That's what we want to do, is you want to load those and then come back and check and reload this page and make sure they're good to go. And that's how we're going to pull all these different products into the new site.